What's going on? Welcome back to the channel. So today when I talk to you about SoFi, I want to go over some expectations for this upcoming week, what might cause some volatility in the stock price, and go over everything else you need to know. But first, make sure you guys hit that thumbs up, and with that, let's get right to it. Starting off with macro data, don't really have too much on Monday. Tuesday, we have ADP employment, the weekly, PPI, retail sales, and also consumer confidence, all of which at one point or another has signaled that it can move the market. And based on Williams' comments, now the market is believing that there is a little bit of a chance of a rate cut for the upcoming December 10th meeting. So going into this upcoming week, we're sitting at 71% of a likelihood of a 25 basis point cut. Because of the data on Tuesday, that is either going to propel this to 100% or bring it back down to 20 to 30%. So Tuesday is going to be the very big day for the broader market. Aside from that, on Wednesday, we have some kind of consumer data. So for instance, mortgage applications, initial jobless claims. So that could as well move the market. But historically, Wednesday, Thursday, Friday, we do have very, very low volume. So Thursday, the market does close at 1 o'clock, and that's because of Thanksgiving. So happy Thanksgiving to all the Americans out there. And then on Friday, markets open regular hours, but again, as I mentioned, very, very low volume. And I'm actually excited for Friday, which I'll explain in a second. But companies unveiling the earnings, this is it. So nothing really crazy, if you ask me, that's going to move the market. So it is going to be largely linked to technicals as well as how the data on Tuesday does come out. So far, nothing really planned for SoFi. So no fireside chats, no planned news, nothing like that. You did see SoFi Insider post this right here. So initially, we only had Mexico as kind of the recipient of who can send money to, if I said that correctly. But nonetheless, it looks like from this, you can actually send it to money to Europe. And so this is using the blockchain, and this is one of the first of many steps, hopefully, that SoFi has taken to kind of include cryptocurrency in day-to-day transactions. But I feel logically, this would constitute a PR. This is worthy of a PR in my opinion, but you never know. Maybe SoFi is kind of swamped with other things and they're not really focused on PR, because the last news that they did put out was on November the 11th. So let me know your general thoughts on that. So I feel like if SoFi was to put this out, that would at least push SoFi up a little bit. But aside from that, going into this upcoming week, 9.52% of the free float is being shorted, works out to be 112.7 million shares overall being shorted. Shorts on Friday did break their trend, so they did increase 1.42 million shares. So of course, if you kind of read into it and maybe analyze it, it kind of goes to show that they did not feel Friday's green day was justified. And for those of you that tuned into my Friday video, if we actually look at a lot of the data behind the scenes, it actually does signal that institutions were selling, and that algorithmic trading was kind of the culprit on why SoFi and many other stocks did go higher. So I think a lot of people are really patiently waiting for futures and kind of the overnight trading to open just to see how things are going to be, and if maybe Friday was just a fugazi, just a bear or a bull trap, or if that was the start of a very nice recovery. So definitely stay tuned for that. But as I mentioned, I'm kind of excited for Friday. So this only does happen once a year, and that is American Thanksgiving. So as I mentioned, market is generally open on Friday, but very low volume because everyone pretty much isn't going to be trading. They're just going to be spending the day with their families or doing whatever the hell that they want. But that usually does mean that shorts activity goes down to zero with many cases. But this does give some insight to who actually is shorting SoFi. So for instance, if we see a lot of transactions and shorts fairly active, that does mean that most likely it is either Canadian, European, or either a foreign entity shorting SoFi. If we see virtually no activity, then it's fair to assume a day-to-day, kind of most of the day-to-day activity is linked to American institutions. So I think Friday will be very kind of insightful for shorts. Aside from all that, from a bull standpoint, you see a consensus for it to be roughly around that $25.50 to kind of $27 range. Bears are anticipating for it to kind of push a little bit lower to that 24. Aside from all that, with it closing at 25.19, it is trading between this S1 and this S2. So 24.25 and then 21.30 is going to be support levels. 26.08 and then 29.03 is going to be the next round target / resistance points. Based on the Elliott Wave technicals, this was just updated, so it does have a pivot point of 28.04. So for as long as SoFi is below that, it is actually projecting for SoFi to really break down quite considerably, in fact. And I'll go over the technicals in a second, which will kind of show why it's assuming such a big pull lower, but it is anticipating between that 28.06 and 19.88 to be coming next. So that would be rather crazy. But the reason why it is kind of forecasting that is because on Friday, it did break below that 100-day moving average. So signaling more consolidation. Normally what does happen is you need 2 consecutive days below a certain moving average to kind of signal a trend. And so a lot of importance for SoFi on Monday for it to hopefully fight back and get above that 100-day moving average. If not, you're going to see further consolidation. You do see some willing buyers up until roughly around that 24.48 for the most part, but on Friday we did have a low of 23.52. So I wouldn't really consider those strong buys exactly. So Monday is going to be a very big day for SoFi based on the technicals. So again, based on that, it is anticipating for it to pretty much hit that 200-day moving average, and that's sitting at 19.46. If it does dip back down there, I definitely will be a buyer. And generally, I've been kind of dollar cost averaging throughout this whole period as well. So let me know what you've been doing, but you can even see from the flow right here, a lot of smaller transactions. So meaning algorithmic trading. So let me know your general thoughts on SoFi and where you do believe that it will land. And one thing as well that I do feel could come this week is a new analyst rating. It wouldn't logically make sense at all, but then again, most of the bears that do give ratings on SoFi, the timing, I think, is very particular. And so, like I said, generally this week might be lower volume. That logically would be a time when they strike and put out their bearish rating, because then that would have algorithmic trading really pushing it lower. And yeah, so in my opinion, you might see some bearish ratings come out this week, which again doesn't make logical sense, but most of these ratings, just the timing is very, very comical. But at the end of the day, I do feel that SoFi is going to probably by the end have a lot of volatility, but still trade between this S1 and this S2. So between that 24.25 to that 26.08. But like I already mentioned, it is going to literally come down to the Tuesday data. That's going to be the very big deal for the broader market. Let me know your general thoughts. Hopefully everyone is having an amazing weekend thus far. One final thing, I did launch a promo on my Stacked account. So I just opened this roughly around a week ago. And so I did put out this new tier, $10 a month. So it is a promotion only for Black Friday. So only a couple days left. But I do put out swing trades and they are on point. So, and what I've started to kind of notice is I'm choosing stocks that aren't popular. And typically, those are the stocks that actually are doing very, very well, despite all the crazy volatility in the broader market. So definitely worthwhile to pop over there and check that out. Link in the description below and also the comments. But with all that, appreciate all of you watching.